The noble house of Greyjoy traced its roots to the Grey King, and many Greyjoy rock and salt kings had been chosen during the age of the Driftwood kings, with only the Grey Irons and the Good Brothers having had more Driftwood kings than the Greyjoys. Their Cit of Pike is probably the oldest castle in the Iron Islands, and this peculiar castle was once one single structure built on a cliff overlooking the sea. But centuries of coastal weathering led the cliff to be destroyed, which in turn destroyed most of the castle. What remains of Pike is a series of towers that are spread out on the remains of the original fragmented cliff. However, most Meisters predict that the remaining fragments of the cliff will crumble into the sea with time, which will ultimately lead to the full destruction of Pike. After Lord Vicon was elected as the Lord of Iron Islands, King Aegon affirmed him as the Lord Paramount of the Iron Islands. However, the Conqueror completely outlawed the practice of reaving and taking salt wives from the Greenlands, and the dragon decreed that such actions would be punishable by death. Lord Vicon Greyjoy proved to be loyal to the Targaryens as he maintained the laws of the Iron Throne, and he even allowed the Faith of the Seven to return to the Iron Islands. His son and heir, Gorn Greyjoy, had to put down a rebellion led by an impostor who claimed to be King Lodos, raised up from the halls of the drowned god. Lord Gorn brutally put down this rebellion, killing thousands of Ironborn in the process. King Aenys the Fool, who was the Targaryen king at this time, was so moved by Lord Gorn's service to the Iron Throne that he stupidly granted the Lord of the Iron Islands any gift of his choice. Lord Gorn accepted King Aenys's offer, and he requested that the king would allow him to expel the Faith of the Seven from the Iron Islands. King Aenys could not go back on his offer and allowed Lord Gorn to evict the Faith of the Seven from his islands. This won Lord Gorn the support of the Ironborn, who had been angered by his late father's decision to return the Faith of the Seven to the Iron Islands. And it also helped him to win over all those that hated him for attacking and butchering the faithful of the drowned god. The Greyjoys would continue to govern the Ironborn in the name of their Targaryen overlords faithfully until the brief but cruel rule of the Red Kraken, Dalton Greyjoy. Lord Dalton had been wild and avaricious from a young age as he sought the glorious life the Reavers of old had. Together with his uncle, Lord Dalton had sailed all the way to Old Geese in Slaver's Bay, reaving and taking salt wives. Dalton Greyjoy would earn the title of the Red Kraken in a fierce battle in which he was avenging the murder of his uncle, for he was covered in the blood of his enemies, and he had sustained many bloody wounds. After his father's death, Lord Dalton claimed the Seastone Chair, and he immediately began building a powerful fleet. In this, he was preparing for a war of succession for the Iron Throne that he thought would break out between Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen and her half-brother Prince Aegon Targaryen. And Dalton's prediction came to pass, for following the death of King Viserys II, the Dance of the Dragons broke out. Lord Dalton then became one of the most important lords in Westeros, for both the Greens and the Blacks offered him great honors if he would swear his Iron Fleet to their cause. Lord Dalton chose the Blacks, and he sailed against the Lannisters who had declared for King Aegon. The Iron Fleet attacked and sacked Lannisport, taking riches and hundreds of salt wives. Next to fall was Case and Fair Isle, and on Fair Isle, Lord Dalton claimed Lord Farman's 4 daughters as his salt wives. Using Fair Isle as his base, Lord Dalton would rule the Sunset Sea for a better part of 2 years.
This is the life.
When the Dance of the Dragons eventually ended, the regents of King Aegon III ordered Lord Dalton to stop his reaving and return to the Iron Islands, but the Red Kraken refused. This forced the regents of King Aegon the Younger to send the Velaryon fleet to attack Lord Dalton. But before the battle, the Red Kraken was killed by one of his salt wives, who is remembered as Tess. Lord Dalton's death caused mayhem on the Iron Islands, as many of his immediate family members wanted to claim the Seastone Chair. The Westermen, under the rule of the Lady Regent of the Rock, Johanna Lannister, took advantage of the civil war on the Iron Islands and attacked them.
I swear to you, my debt will be paid in full.
What ensued was a war of retribution for all the harm the Red Kraken and the rest of the Ironborn had inflicted in the Westerlands. The Westermen killed every man, woman, and child they could find, and they burnt and destroyed every ship, town, castle, and keep they could. Having quenched their thirst for revenge, the Westermen sailed back to the Westerlands with all the plunder their ships could carry. For Lady Johanna, the Westermen gifted to her one of the few surviving sons of the Red Kraken, named Roderick Greyjoy, and Lady Johanna proceeded to have the boy gelded and made into the Fool of Casterly Rock. On the Iron Islands, Dalton Greyjoy's other son, Torron Greyjoy, was made the Lord of the Iron Islands, and he would rule the Iron Islands until his death. Despite the horrors the Ironborn suffered due to the actions of Dalton Greyjoy, the Red Kraken is still one of the most revered heroes of the Ironborn in the era after the Targaryen conquest of Westeros, for he had returned the practice of reaving the Ironborn had lost after the death of Harrenhal. 75 years after the death of the Red Kraken, Dagon Greyjoy, who is remembered as the last Reaver, attacked the western coastline of Westeros, causing much woe to the Starks and the Lannisters in the process. But Dagon was eventually put down when Prince Maegor Targaryen rode out of Summerhall and joined his forces to that of the Lannisters and the Starks. The greatest lord of the Iron Islands was Quellon Greyjoy, who during his long rule over the Ironborn proved to be wise, just, kind, but also stern. During his reign as the Lord of the Iron Islands, Lord Quellon outlawed reaving, thraldom, discouraged the practice of taking salt wives, and brought maesters to the Iron Islands. Lord Quellon fostered peace with the Greenlands by staying loyal to the Iron Throne, encouraged trade, and even married a Greenland maiden from House Piper. Lord Quellon proved his loyalty to the Iron Throne when he fought for the Targaryens during the War of the Ninepenny Kings. But during Robert's Rebellion, Lord Quellon chose to fight for the rebels, but he died in the process. Lord Quellon was succeeded by his ambitious son, Balon Greyjoy, who was keen to return the Ironborn back to their former glory. This poisonous dream led Lord Balon to raise up in rebellion 5 years after Robert Baratheon had won the Iron Throne. After Balon's coronation, he sent his brothers, Euron and Victarion, to attack and sink the Lannister sails off Lannisport. Though this attack was successful, the rebellion itself was ultimately doomed for. King Robert had far superior numbers on both land and sea. King Robert's forces crushed the Greyjoys on both land and sea, and King Balon Greyjoy was forced to bend the knee and give up his last surviving son, Theon Greyjoy, as a hostage. The deaths of both King Robert Baratheon and Lord Eddard Stark once again caused the belligerent Balon Greyjoy to proclaim himself a king. For the Lannisters and Starks that were once allies had become bitter enemies. And when Theon Greyjoy returned to Pike due to the naivety of King Robb Stark, King Balon's hands were freed to invade the north and claim it for his own. King Balon's brother Victarion Greyjoy took Moat Cailin, Princess Asha Greyjoy took Deepwood Motte, and Prince Theon Greyjoy took Winterfell. All these victories seemingly ensured King Balon's rule over the north, but his rule would not last, for due to the deceptive cruelty of Ramsay Snow, Prince Theon lost Winterfell and was taken prisoner. King Balon Greyjoy then mysteriously died, which left a leadership void on the Iron Islands. Priest Aeron Damphair, who is also one of the brothers of the late Balon Greyjoy, then called for a Kingsmont that had not been called for in 4,000 years in order for the Ironborn to choose a new monarch. This decision proved to be a mistake, for it caused both Victarion and Asha to leave their posts in the north in order to take part in this Kingsmont, and Moat Cailin in particular would fall to the forces of the Boltons soon after. Furthermore, during this Kingsmont, the evil and sadistic Euron Greyjoy was elected as the new king of the Iron Islands, and this might bring great woe to the Ironborn and Westeros as a whole in the future. In current events, the Ironborn once again control the Sunset Sea, but House Greyjoy is divided, for King Euron Greyjoy might be planning a cataclysmic war upon Westeros, and the Lord Captain of the Iron Fleet, Victarion Greyjoy, is in a foolish pursuit that might claim his life. In the north, both Princess Asha and Prince Theon are captives of King Stannis Baratheon, but the looming battle between Stannis' forces and the army of the Boltons threatens their lives. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment and subscribe to the channel.